guys, it's Ashley and welcome to Sparky Loves Books. Today I'm doing the coffee book tag and I have a handy dandy cup here that doesn't have coffee in it. It is hot chocolate because it is currently 10 o'clock at night and drinking coffee at this time of night would just be suicide. So I'm not doing that, but I have delicious hot cocoa. It is like the perfect temperature right now. It is not too hot, not too warm, just right enough to warm my soul. Good times, but I can't do this tag while holding this, so I'm just gonna put this down real quick. So I haven't actually been tagged by anybody to do this video, but I saw one of my favorites, Jessie the Reader, do this pretty recently, and it's been raining outside for quite a while, and it just felt like the right time to do this. And all of these are based on different kinds of coffee and other hot beverages, and it's just really lovely, so I'm gonna go ahead and get into it. Number 1 is Black, a series that has hardcore fans, but is really hard to get into, and I'm picking Game of Thrones for this one. I have read the first one. I don't currently have it with me because I'm lending it out to a friend, and this series is tough to get into because they're both really thick books and just full of pages, number 1, and 2, they're really dense. They have intricate fantasy histories involved in them and family lineages that are just really involved, so it's hard to get into them, and it's just a lot to try and get through each of those chunkers. But if you're a fan of the A Song of Ice and Fire series, you are like a really big fan. So I watched the television show. I love it. I think it's one of the best television shows around right now, honestly, and it's just been doing a really great job, and amazing hardcore fans though. Peppermint Mocha, a book that gets very popular during a holiday time of year, and for this I'm picking My True Love Gave to Me, which is edited by Stephanie Perkins and features a bunch of different young adult authors. I read this 2 Christmases ago and it really did put me in the spirit. Some of them were about New Year's, some of them were about Festivus. There, I think, was one about Hanukkah, but they were from all different types of, people and couples and stuff, and so that was really nice, and it is a very festive, Christmassy themed book, so a lot of people start reading it and buying it around that time of year, obviously. Next is Hot Chocolate, your favorite children's book, and my go-to answer for this is the Anne of Green Gables series. This was the book that got me into reading when I was a child. It is my favorite children's book of all time. It has remained dear to my heart for all these years, so this is my go-to answer. However, I also, when I was growing up, was a really big fan of the Chronicles of Narnia series by C.S. Lewis, and I have reread the series probably 3, maybe 4 times because it's just so readable and it's just so great. It's so classic. I adore it. I think that it's great for children because it's full of adventure and love and good morals and stuff, and I just really like it. I think that it was set a precedent for, young adult, or not even young adult, but children's fantasy books, and that if it weren't for this book, a lot of other kids' fantasy books wouldn't have come out that are out right now, and so this also has a really special place in my heart. Next is Double Shot of Espresso, a book that kept you on your toes from start to finish, and I'm picking We Were Liars by E. Lockhart for this one. This is a young adult mystery set around these cousins that call themselves the Liars that come from a really rich family that owns their own island, and they all spend their summers together, and while they are also cousins, they are each other's best friends too. And a lot of drama unfolds surrounding these cousins, and it's all very unexpected and really fast-paced, and just like I said, it comes out of nowhere, a lot of the stuff that happens here, and it's really short, so I read it in one sitting and I was completely hooked during the entire duration of this book, and I really highly recommend it. Next is Starbucks, a book you see everywhere, and right now that has got to be The City of Bones and even the entire Mortal Instruments series, and even all of Cassandra Clare's books right now are just everywhere at this time. One, because she just keeps pumping out books and series, with the Tales of the Shadowhunter Academy and the Dark Artifices series, and the Bane Chronicles, and her TV show Shadowhunters is out now, and so this is just everywhere right now. I wish I didn't have like a library version of this because I don't like how the library stickers are on it. It's the only one that I have that has stickers on it like this, so that's a little annoying, but this is everywhere right now. Every single person is reading it, and it is just super hyped up at this time right now. Next is That Hipster Coffee Shop. Give a book by an indie author a shout out, and so I'm going to talk about Pearl by Deirdre Riordan Hall. Just real briefly, I was given a copy of this book from the author earlier this year to review it, and it was amazing. It's about this girl Pearl whose mother is like this really famous rock star, but she's also a drug addict, so she does not care for Pearl at all, and Pearl's left to her own defenses, her own life. It really struggles with her upbringing, is eventually sent to kind of like a preppy sort of school, and so she has a lot of culture adjustments to do, but she's really grounded, really struggling with a lot of things because she knows this is a great opportunity for her, but at the same time she doesn't feel like she quite fits in. And it's just a really real novel, just very well written, both with the characters and with the plot and the goings on, and making sure that, one, you're really invested in the characters but also invested in the plot. And I just really love this book so much. I know that Deirdre has another book out called Sugar, and I'm really interested in reading that. If not this year, then absolutely for sure next year, because this book was just fantastic. It really took me by surprise. I just was not expecting it to be as brilliant as it was, and reading about, you know, teenagers who are going through really tough, really poor monetary times is always incredibly interesting to me, and I always appreciate books that are written like that and written well like that. So I really want to shout out that book. I think you guys should all go read it. It's available on Kindle. You guys should go buy it and read it as soon as possible. It's just amazing. Oops, I accidentally got Decaf, a book that you were expecting a lot more out of. A book that I was expecting more from is Spindle by E.K. Johnston. I got a NetGalley copy of this book early, and I reviewed it and read it. Did not love it. The first book, 1,000 Nights, was just amazing. It was an amazing retelling that was beautiful and intricately woven and had some of the best storytelling I've ever seen in a young adult book. It just was a craft of literature. And then Spindle is the sequel, and I had gotten a copy of it and read 1,000 Nights prior to, in order to gear up for Spindle, basically. And where 1,000 Nights is a retelling of the Arabian Nights tale, the Spindle book is a retelling of Sleeping Beauty, and it fell so flat. It was just an obvious retelling, an obvious story structure, a lot less intrigue, a lot less interesting character and interesting story idea. I was very, very disappointed by this book. Really thought that a lot more was going to come out of it, especially with how good 1,000 Nights was. And Exit Pursued by Bear, which is not in that series, but it's by the same author, and it's also a really well done book. But Spindle was just very meh for me altogether. I think I ended up giving it 2 out of 5 stars, so that one really just fell flat for me. Next is The Perfect Blend, a book or series that was both bitter and sweet but ultimately satisfying. I'm actually going to pick Mockingjay, which is obviously the 3rd book of the Hunger Games trilogy. If you don't know about this book, I don't know where you've been living, you know, the last 6 years, if you've been living under a rock, but in my opinion, while a lot of crazy shit goes down in this book, I was happy with how it ended. I understood why she did what she did, even though it was drastic in some places for a lot of people. I think people were wanting things to wrap up without anybody being harmed, but that's just not how the world works, especially a dystopian world. So even though I was emotional and had a lot of bitter parts and a lot of nice parts, in the end, I think it was really well done, and I like how it ended. So I was satisfied with this book. And now I have Satisfied from the Hamilton soundtrack stuck in my head. Thank you very much, book tag. Next is Green Tea, a book or series that is quietly beautiful. And I have 2 picks for this one, actually. The first is The Sacred Lies of Minnow Bly by Stephanie Oakes, which was my #1 favorite read of 2016. I don't know many people who have read this book, so if you're out there, please let's talk about it. I think it was beautiful, and it seems like it is like a mystery or sort of a graphic kind of young adult mystery book, but it's really not like that. It's really about humanity and culture and learning and why it's so important to learn and overcoming adversity. And to say that it's quietly beautiful is an absolute understatement. I don't know what I was expecting out of this book, but it delivered so much differently than what I was expecting, and I obviously can't recommend it enough. It was my favorite read last year, so that was a really quietly beautiful book. The other one I want to talk about is Out of the Easy by Ruta Sepetys, and this is about a girl named Josie whose mother is in a prostitute brothel, and so she was raised in that brothel in New Orleans, and that is kind of a rough upbringing, but she dreams away. She works in a bookstore. She's really smart. She wants to go to college. And this is just really, you know, it's a really nice, really well-written book. It's written like it's an adult novel, not a young adult book, and it's just outstanding. I don't have enough adjectives to describe this book, honestly, because I'm just going to get repetitive, so I highly recommend this. I ended up giving this 5 out of 5 stars when I read it in 2015. It's just unexpectedly beautiful and a great piece of historical fiction that will just sweep you off your feet completely unexpectedly. Next is Chai Tea, a book or series that makes you dream of far-off places, and for this one I've picked Just One Day by Gail Forman, which left me with a serious book hangover because I loved it so much when I read it, like 2014, 2013, whenever it was. But I just loved the spirit of traveling in this book. When I was finished with it, I really wanted to just, you know, curb that craving of wanderlust that I had and just go be daring and just like hop on a plane and go wherever I wanted to go without even thinking about it, because sometimes it feels like that's the only way you're gonna get anywhere is if you just like get up and do it. I really had that feeling when I finished this book. In the beginning it takes place in Europe and Paris and Amsterdam and all these wonderful places, and so that gave me a serious sense of wanderlust. I really love this book. I think it's amazing. It's one of my favorite young adult novels of all time. Gail Forman's one of my favorite authors of all time. This is amazing. It makes me want to travel really bad, so y'all should go read it. And finally we have Earl Grey, your favorite classic, and I have 3 choices for this because I'm a cheater and can't just pick one. Really all 3 of these are my favorite, and they're my favorite for different reasons, and so to pick one would be asking the impossible of me. But the first one is The Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer, which I studied really intensely in college. It was my focal point in college for my English Lit major. I love Middle English. I love the Canterbury Tales. I love everything Geoffrey Chaucer has done, and so this is one of my favorite classics for that reason, because it's so great, but also because it was really impactful for me in my college years. And my other choice is The Iliad by Homer, which, similar reasons. I was also a classics major in college, and this was one of the ones that I had to dissect for my first classics class that really made me want to get into the major as a whole. So I owe a lot of my college career to this as well. And I just, you know, it's one of the first written pieces of literature, so a lot of other classics can be traced back to this novel, and I just find it really important and vital to literature as a whole. And my third pick I'm wearing a shirt for, but I'm too lazy to go get a copy of the book, is To Kill a Mockingbird. And I just love it. I think it's amazing and well done, and I just am living in this bubble where I believe that that is the only book that Harper Lee ever came out with. I refuse to believe that the second book exists because I've heard really bad things about it, and I don't want to read it at all because of those bad things. So those are my 3 favorite classics. And that's it. That was the coffee book tag. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm just going to tag Annie from BloomTV because I think she'd enjoy a lot of these questions. And other than that, feel free to do this tag if you like the questions, and if you want to, consider yourself tagged by me. And I'll see you guys soon in my next video. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye!